Hi, all. How are you? This is Monica here with the best interest of the parent. Welcome aboard. This message here is for my YouTube followers. I know that my YouTube following has grown a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a link to my Facebook group inside the description so that the YouTube people can come into my Facebook group, because I want you to have the full experience of the best interest of the parent. We have a community. We have like over 200 parents that are in this Facebook group, and I want you to be a part of that community. So welcome if you're watching me from YouTube or Facebook. Glad you're here. This is my Monday night live stream. And so if you're here for the first time, I'm Monica Shimonik. I'm a health and mindset coach, and I help parents get through the family court system so that they can preserve their dignity and their self-esteem and their money, their assets, and their mental health and their physical health. And I want you all to get through the family court system intact, and I want you to remain whole as you're going through this process, because as you know, the family court is set up to rob you of your dignity, your assets, your children, your sense of safety, your sense of trust in the way government systems work. And so you become stripped of a lot as you're going through the system. And I want you to remain whole and intact as you get through this, because when you come out of this, after following a roadmap to healing and empowerment, which is what I provide with my course and my workshops and my coaching, when you get through this, you will embody an activist mindset. And when you take on that activist mindset, you then start to heal. And when you're healing and you're empowered and you're feeling whole and you're maintaining your sense of self, you don't spend as much money because you're not buying your way out of problems quite as often. And your children get to watch you go through this process, and they're going to learn how to take on such a tumultuous life experience, a catastrophe. So I'm super glad you're here with me. This is actually a Q&A session. I hold these every once in a while, like once every 6 weeks or so. And I have 3 questions. I have more than 3 questions, but I'm only going to cover 3 questions tonight because I care about your attention spans. So the very first question that came in, let's see, let me pull it up here, guys. Hang on. Let me pull it up on my phone. All right. First question that came in. Okay. If I miss your question, if you send me a question and I say, yeah, I'll get to it, and I don't get to it, then it's okay to send me another message and remind me. Say, hey, Monica, you said you would get to my question, and you missed it, so I want you to answer my question. So it's totally fine. It's totally okay to bother me. I would rather you bother me if I forget than just be like mad at me for months at a time. So do reach out if I skip your question and remind me, because I sometimes miss them. The best way to get questions to me is to email me instead of like leaving a comment on Facebook. I might not get it. Monica@momsunshackled.com. If you have any questions at all, I'll answer them in these sessions here. So let's see here. Let me pull it up. Okay, here we go. So the question I got a while ago that I actually forgot in the past, that this is like a revisit, is what does someone do if your attorney is being bullied by the other counsel in and out of the courtroom, and you notice your judge doesn't even respect your attorney? Okay, so I've experienced this. My attorney had her tire slashed outside the courthouse while she was representing me. My attorney was accused of being on drugs. My attorney was treated so badly representing me. It was so awful. So what do you do as the litigant, as the parent? There's really not a whole lot you could do. But personally, if the attorney is unable to stand up for themselves in the courtroom against these nasty bullies, how well can they stand up for you? It's such a no-win situation for your attorney, because your attorney's probably a nice person. Like, you probably care that your attorney's being treated badly. I mean, it really bothered me that my attorney was treated so badly. But I'll be honest with you, and this isn't her fault, but it made me more anxious in my hearings when my attorney was treated the way she was treated. And so I found that it affected her ability to represent me. Quite honestly, it's not her fault. It's the system's fault for promoting bullying. But you really want an attorney that is going to know how to stand up for themselves. Just because you want the outcome that you want. You want someone who knows how to defend your rights And if they're not going to stand up for themselves, then they're probably not going to do a good job standing up for you. And I'm sure this is a good person, like my attorney, super nice person. She showed up after my daughter was born. She gave her presents. She held her. I think she held her when she was like a week old or something. So we actually, my attorney and my daughter have the same birthday. So there was like a bond there, you know? So like, she's a good person. Like she's a good friend of ours, but like, you know, couldn't really get what she needed, you know, to defend me properly. So that's what I would do. I mean, there's really nothing you could do. You can't control how other people treat other people. So one thing you can do if you really want to keep this attorney is take on more responsibility in your case. I think all parents should do that. And that's not a bad thing. This isn't like you hire a guy to paint your house and you're stuck painting the shutters because this person can't hack it. You know, that's not the same thing. If you're taking on more work in your case, that's a good thing. You're supposed to be partnered up with your attorney. I think parents should do like 30 to 40% of all the work in their case. And I know that sounds crazy because you're paying really good money to somebody else, but it's different. The more work you do in your own case, the more, first of all, the more empowered you get. And secondly, the more insight you get into the laws. Like you get more exposure into the system when you're doing some of the work, as opposed to sitting back and letting the attorney do everything. I also recommend this for people who are really sick. If you have like terminal illness or a permanent disorder, you're going to want to take on a very active role in your recovery and in your treatment. I would not divert all the power in decision making to a doctor or a team of doctors. Like I would take on like 30% of the workload and see how I could help myself, you know, contribute, offer new perspectives, and then you're going to naturally become more assertive because you're going to know enough about the way the law works to be able to tell your attorney, like, hey, I don't really like that strategy. Like some attorneys, their strategy is to just make the other parent look bad. Like that's the entire strategy. Very common in family law. I still to this day have not met a single family law attorney where their first strategy is to learn the parent's fundamental rights and say things like, well, you know, my client has the right to continue to teach their child their religion. Like that's a legal argument that has lots of case law, more case law than you can even imagine. And I would rather an attorney take on that sort of legal strategy than figure out all the bad crap your ex is doing. Oh, the ex didn't show up to the doctor. The ex didn't take the child to freaking day camp. The ex was mean to the babysitter. Like a lot of attorneys' legal strategy is just making the ex look bad. And that's not a legal strategy. Okay. What you're doing is you're just trying to appeal to the judge's opinion of best interest of the child when you do that. And that is solely opinion based. That's not a legal strategy. That's just you like rolling the dice. And it's a stupid legal strategy. I'm just going to be honest with you. So anyway, if you want to keep this attorney and you find that this attorney is being bullied and being mistreated, then I would just take on a more active role in your case. And if your attorney is getting weak, you can step in possibly and be strong and act as a partner, you know, like a silent partner, if you will. If you gel well with this attorney, I think it's good to have a good working relationship with your attorney. So personally, I would rather have an attorney that's with me and maybe not quite as strong than a shark who's nasty to me. And I don't like that kind of energy. Okay. And if you're nasty to me, you're probably going to be a nasty team play. Like you're probably going to be unethical as well. Like, I don't know. There's a real popular attorney in my state. Her name is Seal Gersten. And she's known for just mowing down her opponent, getting everything she wants. She's nasty. She's mean. She plays dirty. And she's nasty to her own clients. You know, I actually had a client who had PTSD after working with her, even though she got everything she wanted working with this attorney. So I don't know. I'm going off on a tangent. If you have good chemistry with this attorney, I would keep them, but do take on a more active role. Because if you're sitting back on the sidelines, then your attorney might get chewed up by the other side and you might not win your case. So that's just my opinion. And if you take my course, you'll know that I'm a huge fan of like high vibrational legal strategy. Like, don't be a dick to the other parent, you know, like be be your true self, be fair, be honest, have integrity. Like, I don't like the legal strategy where your whole job is to chew up the other parent. If your former partner is abusing your children, press charges, go get charges filed. But you don't, like my former attorney wanted the judge to think that my ex was addicted to porn. Now, my ex was not addicted to porn, for one thing, but even if he was, I don't care. Like I don't give a crap what people's personal things are. I just want to parent my child without interference. Like, I don't care what the other person does. If they're not abusing my child, I could care less what they're into. Okay. Like, I don't care. And so I don't like those humiliation tactics. I think that's just bad karma. That's bad energy. I think that's just putting nasty crap out in the universe. You never know when that could come back and get you. What if in 10 years you start paying for that? What if you karmically pay for that? Would you want someone humiliating you like that in a public record? I don't want that kind of vibe in my life. And so I don't treat other people that way. All right. Okay. So that's the answer to the first question. The second question is, whoops. Let's see here. Where can I print out a breakdown? I love this question. Where can I print out a breakdown of what are your rights for legal and physical custody, and what does child support entail? Well, when I was running for office a couple of years ago, if I had won, which I didn't because I was a minor party, I wasn't aligned with a major party, which was a big mistake. I think people should align themselves with a major party if they're going to run for office. But if you actually want to hold office, if you want to actually have a seat in the legislature. So when I was running for office, one of the things I wanted to do was to get 8x10 sheets of paper for parents who are entering family court, outlining the parents what their rights are. When you go into housing court, there are brochures, there's pamphlets, there's information on what your rights are as a tenant. If you're a tenant, you have the right to not be kicked out of your house without notice. If you're a tenant, you have the right to not be locked out of your house. The landlord can't change the locks. You can't have the heat cut off, in retaliation for being late on your rent. There's a whole list of rights if you're in housing court. If you're in traffic court, you have a list of rights. It's like, oh, you have the right to have a hearing. You have the right to not have, possibly like not have your wages garnished for a period of time or something like that. Like, there's all these rights in traffic court. If you're fighting a freaking $200 traffic ticket, you have more rights than if you're in family court. And so in family court, there's nothing. There's nothing. And I wanted there to be 8x10s of bullet points. These are your rights as a parent. You still have the right to teach your child your religion. You still have the right to have influence over your child. You still have the right to see your child. You have the right to all your rights. Okay. And so these papers were not in the courts because that would have put family law attorneys out of business in like 10 minutes. And, so the question was, is there a printout? The answer is no, but that doesn't mean that there's no hope for you. You can read any of Ron and Sherry Palmer's books. You can take my course. You can learn about your rights. Your rights are abundant. You have more rights. As a fit parent, you have more rights than you're going to know what to do with. You're not going to possibly be able to assert all your rights in an hour-long hearing because your rights are that abundant. They're that generous. We as parents have lots of rights when it comes to our children. Our parental rights are more abundant than our rights under housing laws, under traffic court laws, under small claims court laws. Criminal court, the rights are a little bit more generous, but no, your parental rights are very, 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 very generous, very abundant. So learn them on your own and make your own little printout because you could do that. You could totally do that. And my course does have PDFs that you could print out as well. And there you go. That's your list. That's how you get your list. But no, there's no like publication of parental rights as far as I know. But you can make one. You can make one and make it available on Google Drive and just share it all over the place. So they're not copyrighted, just learn your rights and share them with everybody. Share them with everyone who will listen. The other part of this question was, what does child support entail? Okay, so I did get clarification on this question. And child support, it's a calculation based on your income. It's stupid. because when married people are raising their children, the government doesn't force them to spend 22% of their paycheck on their children. Like I spend like 5% of my paycheck on my kids, on my kids from my second, on my marriage. I spend, I spend like so little money on my 2 little kids, and then the government gets like 22% of my income for my older son because I'm not with his dad anymore. So because mommy and daddy are not romantically connected, the government takes 22% of one of the parents' paychecks and gives it to the other parent as a consolation prize for winning in court and being on the judge's good side. So it's stupid. It's unconstitutional because, like I said, the government doesn't force married parents to pay a certain paycheck, part of their paycheck, to their children inside of marriage. So why are we doing it in divorce? I would love to see all the child support laws be diminished, just stripped from the books completely. There is a resource I'm going to plug into the comment or the description. It's a live stream I saw a couple days ago with Melissa Isaac and Connie Regularly. It's tremendous. It's so valuable. Learn that, because the more you learn about this like carnage in the family court system, the more you can stop taking things like this personally. Because a lot of people, because child support is kind of framed as like a punishment. It's meant to make you feel like crap for losing your child, and now you have to pay. It's like paying a penalty to the other parent for losing. It's like, we're going to take your kid away, and we're going to add insult to injury by making you pay that person. You have to pay the person that stole your child from you. And again, it's meant to make you feel like crap about yourself, because people who feel like crap about themselves, and people who live in fear, and people who feel like second-class citizens spend money. They spend a lot of money in the court system to make themselves whole again. And so I said in the beginning of this live stream, when you get coaching, like high quality coaching, like with the course I offer has coaching in it. When you have a mentor that understands that this is a corrupt ass system, and when you empower yourself, learning your rights, learning how to set boundaries with the attorneys, and like the other people that work in the court system, when you take care of your physical and mental health really well in the context of what you're going through, because this is a very debilitating experience. It brings us down. It makes us very sick. I've said this before. A lot of the people that contacted me when I first opened were on either temporary or permanent disability. Like they weren't working because they were so traumatized for what they've been through. But when you take care of your health, and when you learn how to set boundaries with the court system, and you understand the business model, you don't take it as personally, and you get to preserve your health. And when you're healthy, you get to fight way better. You get to preserve like the best asset in your case, which is you. Your mind is the best asset. This is the best thing you could bring into the courtroom. And the thing is, you already have a leg up on everybody else in the case. You have a leg up on the judge. You have a leg up on the attorneys, everybody, the therapists. Who cares who has a PhD? You have a leg up on all these people, because you love your child more than anybody in that room. Okay. Even the narcissist can only love your child as much as they do. Like, they have a lukewarm amount of love for your children, say, right? So nobody has the passion and the grit and the love for your child that you have. You have the most of that out of all those motherfuckers in the room. You have all of that. Okay. And not only that, but you also have the most rights. You have tons of parental rights, like fundamental rights that are backed by the Constitution, backed by case law. Like, so not only are you legally endowed, you are legally filled up like with rights. You have more rights than you're ever going to know what to do with. You have so many rights in the family court. Like it's crazy. Like, I'm like, and you have the passion and the grit. So you're way ahead of these people. But what happens is the majority of parents get broken down psychologically, spiritually. They become void. They get this void in them. And what they do is they want to get whole again. So they start spending lots of money. So the family court system is set up on purpose to do that. So when they make you pay your ex abuser, or whatever, this nasty person that sues you for sole custody, it puts you in a more of a second class, impoverished role. Okay. And so that makes us feel really bad about ourselves. So we're going to want to hire people to fix things, like, let me get a therapist. If the therapist could say that I'm a good person, maybe I'll get my kids back, and then I won't have to pay all this child support. So the child support is meant to just, like taking your kids is like a knife in your kidney, And then the child support is just like someone twisting the knife, and just doing bad things with the knife. So that's child support. And one thing I'm really against, and you and I talked about this, the parent that asked me this question, when judges add on extra child support to account for extracurriculars, that is bullshit, 100%, and that needs to be reported to the federal government, or the Attorney General, or Department of Treasury. I don't know who you would report that to, but it's fraud, because the state is collecting money. The state is supposed to be collecting money from the non-custodial parent, like the loser parent, the parent that's not around a lot, to care for the child, to supposedly keep that child off of welfare. Okay, it's supposed to be like a welfare recovery system. Watch the video with Connie Reguly and Melissa Isaac to learn more about why this crap exists. So when a judge is collecting child support so that little Johnny could, do Boy Scouts, that's fraud. Okay, because taxpayers are paying to implement this child support. And so if the state is taking money from you so that your child could go to Boy Scouts or swimming lessons or Lego camp, that's fraud. Taxpayers don't want to pay. Taxpayers don't want to pay for your child to go to Lego camp. That is a private expense that should be absorbed by the parents. And there's a matching dollar for dollar system. So, if I pay my ex $100, you taxpayers also pay the state $100, because they have matching systems. So if I have to pay $200 a week instead of $100 a week because my son is in 3 different extracurriculars, then the taxpayers have to match that funding. They have to match those dollars. So in essence, if your child support is inflated because your ex signed your child up for a bunch of extracurriculars, you need to report that to, I don't even know what agency that is, but I could get back to you on that. You want to report that and say, why are taxpayers funding this? Why are taxpayers funding my child to go to soccer camp? So it's fraud. It's fraud, 100%. It's supposed to be a welfare recovery system, and not like, I want to make sure this child goes to all these extracurriculars, because the state doesn't do that to married parents. The state doesn't make sure that married parents are putting their kids in extracurriculars. I think extracurriculars are great. Parents should do it. If you have your kids half the time, then that gives you lots of opportunity to get your kids into extracurriculars. Anyway, so that's my take on child support. I don't really go into a lot of child support. I almost never talk about it in my course. So do seek out oh my gosh, amazing resource is called The Child Support Hustle. That person wrote a book. I don't have the name of the book. I'm sorry. I looked at it on Amazon. I read the description and stuff, but she has she's always being interviewed. She has a Facebook page. It's called The Child Support Hustle. This person has done lots and lots of research on this abomination. So definitely check her out, because she knows what she's talking about. So we have a third question, and this question came a couple hours ago, and here we go. So this question is borderline triggering for some people, because it's kind of an anti-shared parenting question. And so I just want to remind everybody that, here's the question. I want to remind everybody, this group is a shared parenting friendly group. We support shared parenting in this group. In fact, to get into the Facebook group, you had to answer some questions. It was because the question came from someone in this group. So, and I'm like, there's questions that you have to answer to get into this group. And if you don't support shared custody in 50-50, whatever, then this isn't the right group for you. There's plenty of groups out there that are more in alignment with your belief system. So if you don't believe shared parenting is good, then I would seek out those groups. I'm not going to kick you out of this group, though. But either you'll probably find that this isn't the right fit for you. But also, I encourage you to stick around and just try to change your perspective. Because if you're not in favor of shared parenting, then you're kind of saying that you don't deserve shared custody either. Like you're kind of telling you're kind of making it known that you're okay with losing your child. Like you're okay with being a visitor, because parents, they never say this. What they really mean is, I don't want shared parenting for the other parent. They never say, I don't think shared parenting is good because I don't want to spend time with my child. Because whenever I say well, then why don't you just become the visitor parent? If you're against shared parenting, you could fix that in 2 seconds. Call up your ex and say, hey, I'll just see the kids every other weekend. And you could fix that in 2 seconds, but they don't. You guys don't do that. So what you're really saying is, I'm against shared parenting for the other parent, not for me. That's what you're really saying. I'm just kind of sort of calling you out a little bit. But look, I grew up without my father. I grew up in a predominantly sole custody house. I grew up in sole custody household. I saw my dad like 4 hours a week, which is like 98.5% of the time with my mom or something atrocious like that. It was not a good thing for me. I needed my father. I needed 2 parents, not a single mom. And also a shared parenting bill, a shared parenting mandate. I would not even be sitting here talking to all of you because I wouldn't have had my son taken away. I would be with my son half the time, and my son would be doing amazingly, and he's not, because I'm not with him a whole lot. So obviously I'm in favor of shared custody because that would have done a hell of a lot better for me, So anyway, this was the question. It actually wasn't a question, it was a comment. But I'm going to pretend it was a question because I'm going to address it here. So here's the comment. Okay. I don't know why. Okay. So this all came because Arkansas is going to be passing the shared parenting legislation. Like, it just needs to be signed off by their governor. So that was a huge victory, because anytime that happens, that's a good thing. So the comment to me in a private message was, I don't know why you would support automatic 50-50 custody. These shared parenting bills are so dangerous, and they can be harmful. They can be harmful for children. My nephew had 50-50 custody arrangement, and it was very tough for him to adjust to. I do agree both parents are important, but shared custody is not always in a child's best interest. These cases should be looked at on an individual basis. Okay, so I'm going to break that down for you. I'm going to break that down. I'm going to break your comment down in little pieces here. So I do support automatic shared custody as long as the parents are fit. And not just because it would have been great for me, but because that's how it is with married people. Married parents automatically have equal custody of their children when they have babies, when they have their kids in the hospital. They're automatically equal, unless you're an unmarried father. But it's really easy to, if you're an unmarried father, it's very, very, very easy to bring yourself to the level of a married mother or a married father. Okay. And all you have to do is show an initiative to take care of your kids. That's it. So show up to the birth if you can. Make attempts to care for your newborn. Make attempts to care for your toddler. Whether the mom lets you or not, I believe, is irrelevant. I think Stanley versus Illinois says it doesn't matter if you are successful. I think if you make the initiative, just by making the initiative, you're automatically adjudicated as an equal. Research Stanley versus Illinois. It's a Supreme Court case from 1971 that outlines all of this, how an unmarried father can achieve the status of equal in the eyes of the law. And all you have to do is make attempts to parent your child, okay? Even if the mom locks you out of the house and you can't get in, making an attempt, I believe, adjudicates you. And you don't need a psych eval or a custody study, or you don't need a guardian ad litem to be like, yep, okay. You don't need any of that. You are adjudicated as equal as long as you make the attempt, whether somebody with a clipboard and a short haircut says it's okay or not. Because, people with clipboards and short hair are like the people that work in the court system. So when people are married, the parents are equals under the eyes of the law. Okay. It doesn't matter if you change most of the diapers or whatever. Under the eyes of the law, you guys are equal. So I believe that because we do that for married parents, dissolving a romantic relationship doesn't diminish your legal status to your children. Okay. Show me where in the law it says that breaking up with somebody is impacting your legal rights. Okay. So that's one of the reasons why I support automatic 50-50, because it's already automatically 50-50 when the baby's born. So I'm just a fan of keeping it that way and not taking anything away, my nephew had 50-50 custody arrangement, and it was difficult for him to adjust to. Yeah. Okay. So here's the question. Is that justiciable? Is that something that is a legal if something is difficult for a child, is that a legal issue, or is that just like a regular everyday issue? You know, my 2-year-old had difficulty adjusting to dance class. It took her like a month to be okay with dancing with all the other kids. So is that a legal issue? Does that mean that 2-year-olds shouldn't be allowed to go to dance class? Because my child had, you know, should all 2-year-olds be prohibited from attending dance class because my 2-year-old had a hard time? We can't create laws that protect kids from having a difficult time. That's not justiciable. You know, that's not a justiciable controversy. And I've said this in court before, where my ex would bitch about me, like, oh, she did this, she did that. And I'm like, well, is that justiciable? Is that a justiciable controversy? Is that something that you could take to a government agency and get that fixed? You know, does the government have to fix everything? You know? So I do agree both parents are important, but shared custody is not always in a child's best interest. So here's another thing. Best interest is opinion-based, 100% opinion-based. If mom thinks one thing is best interest, dad thinks something else is best interest. My husband and I disagree all the time. Like today, the kids took the stuffed animals outside, and I thought that was in their best interest. I thought it would be fun for them to play with stuffed animals outside. And my husband decided it wasn't in their best interest to take their stuffed animals outside because the stuffed animals could get ticks. So who's right? Is it what's more important, to have fun with your stuffed animals outside, or to not take your stuffed animals outside so that they get ticks? Who's right? We're both right. You know? And the thing is, like, when I'm parenting them, I do it one way, and when he's parenting them, it's done a different way. And that's fine. So does everything need to be taken to court? So that's the problem, is that, like, we're, you know, like, not everything has to be freaking taken to court. So not always in a child's best interest. The whole concept of best interest needs to be stripped from the statutes completely, 100%. We do not need best interest in the statutes at all. I believe best interest of the child came from the foster care statutes, and it spilled over into the divorce statutes, which was like such an abomination to justice and liberties. Okay, so here's the final thing. These cases should be looked at on an individual basis. No, they should not. When we take on each case individually and uniquely, that brings in lots and lots of discretion for the judge. When we say this has to be looked at individually, what we're really saying is we want the judge to make, it means we're inviting discretion from the judge. We want the judge to make an opinion. And when we start asking for discretion, I said this in my last live stream, we need to stop asking for discretion. We need to stop saying, I want the judge to look at this on an individual basis. We do kind of want a blanket law. I mean, it's not stopping for a stop sign is a universal blanket law for everybody. If you start looking at everything on an individual basis, then that means sometimes you can run the stop sign and sometimes you can't. And that's why we have laws. Laws are not supposed to be discretionary. They're not supposed to be looked at as an individual basis. And we have parental rights that are embedded in our laws. So we have to keep the discretion out of it because these are laws and these laws protect us. So when we start inviting discretion, we're chipping away at the laws. We're chipping away at our own protections. And I don't want my fundamental rights to be dependent on the temperament of a judge. I do not want a judge's attitude and whether or not they like me to be the thing that my parental rights are hanging on. You know, and I'll say this again, married parents have blanket rights. They have universal rights that are all the same. If you have 8 married couples, all 8 married couples have the exact same rights, you know, to their kids. They all have the same rights. 20 married couples, 100 married couples. If you take every married couple in your entire state that has children, they all have the same rights. Okay, so is that bad? Is it bad that they all have the same rights? Is it bad that they all have automatic rights? So, but so when we're divorcing, why suddenly we need all this discretion? Why are our rights discretionary just because we're divorcing? That's my freaking issue with all this stuff. Yeah, I think judges should have zero discretion, and married people don't have to see a judge before they take their kids home from the hospital. So I'll be damned if some judge gets to decide whether or not I get to continue to parent my child just because my ex don't like me anymore. So that's all I'm going to say about that. if you want to hang out in the group still, even though this is a 50-50 group, you did say on the thing that you agree with this. So maybe you change your mind. That's fine. But if you want to learn about why this is important, you could stick around. Of course, I won't throw you out of the group, but this group might not be the group for you if you're if that's not your mindset, but do join up with other groups. There's plenty of groups out there that will support your philosophies for sure. So let's look at the comments here. So someone said, that's great advice, not taking it personally. Easier said than done, but that's why people need to hire you as a coach. Yeah, it's really hard to not take it personally. But not taking it personally was one of the most pivotal things I've ever done in my case. When I read my court orders and I see all these like nasty character assassinations, I know, and it's hard to not take it personally because like it triggers like childhood wounds of not being good enough, being laughed at on the playground, being excluded from sports and stuff like that, not having a lot of friends, it triggers a lot of that stuff, the feeling of, I think we all have this, like we all have a fear of not being good enough, not being acceptable, not belonging. The fear of not belonging is like universal, like Marianne Williamson has a fear of not belonging, and she's like this world-class freaking speaker, and she's an author, and everybody loves her, and she has a fear of not fitting in. It was when Meryl Streep won her Oscar, she was like, I don't deserve this. I'm not good enough. So like we all have this universal fear of not belonging, not being good enough. And so when we read these court orders, it triggers that, like, because we're reading like, this parent displays as temperamental. This parent displays as irresponsible. This parent presents as dysfunctional. This parent presents as someone with unresolved mental issues. These judges write this stuff in here, and it makes you feel like garbage, right? Right? Like, how many of you guys could read your court orders and not be like, don't read your court orders before a first date, right? Like, don't read your court orders before you're going to do like a presentation at work or something like that. It triggers your childhood stuff, but judges are very strategic. They do that on purpose. They do that because they want you to go hire a therapist so that the therapist could write all these reports about what a great person you are and how you're working on your stuff. And so you're going to spend money doing that. And then you're going to spend money filing more motions. You're going to spend your filing fees. And then if you appeal that, you have to spend money on transcripts. And then you have to pay for another lawyer. And, let me get a GAL for my child so that they could tell the judge that I'm working on my stuff. It's like, and so like I have gone to so many therapy sessions to undo garbage that judges wrote about me in their court orders, like I have, like, we should all play like bingo, like court order bingo and they take like the 30 most common character assassinations, put it on a bingo chart, right? Like irresponsible, selfish, puts their need ahead of others, can't hold down a job, is inconsistent, unstable, angry, volatile. My most recent judge was very creative. I have to give her credit. She said, my vocabulary is too sophisticated and it's likely to confuse my son. Okay. So she's going to put my kid with the other parent because the other parent speaks more simply than I do. I have too much strong vocabulary. So there's that, put that on the bingo chart. And we should play a game of family court judge insult bingo and whoever wins, wins a prize. So they do that so that you can start hiring people to fix that. Okay. But there's nothing that needs to be fixed because there's nothing wrong with you. Okay. You're fine the way you are. Okay. You don't have to be a perfect parent. You're fine the way you are. You're just freaking fine the way you are. And if someone doesn't like it, then they could go have formal charges filed against you. So we'll have to talk about that in a different live stream. So let's see. So someone here says, and new spouses end up having more rights than non-custodial parents makes no sense. Yes, my son, my former partner was with my son a lot. Like she lived with him. Okay. So she was like with him all the time. She got him on the bus in the morning. She like made his lunch. Yeah, she was actually really nice to him. So I'm so grateful for that. And she got to raise him from like age 5 to age 10, like those precious years that I missed out on so much. But I'm thankful that I'm thankful that he had somebody there, but most people don't have that much gratitude towards the new partner. All right, guys. So let's see if we have any more questions. No questions. So I did go 39 minutes. I was hoping to wrap this up in like 20 minutes, but so we'll see you next week. And I will be sure to get those resources to you. And again, if you're watching from YouTube, do join my Facebook group. All right. Excellent. All right. So we will meet up next week. And I thank you all for coming on. All right. Have a good night.